June 22, 1941, 3:15 a.m. Soviet-German border. The largest military invasion in history begins. Nazi Germany launches Operation Barbarossa. 3 million soldiers, 3,000 tanks, 2,500 aircraft crossing the Soviet border. Stalin's Red Army is caught completely unprepared. Within weeks, millions of Soviet soldiers are dead or captured. By December, Nazi forces are 15 miles from Moscow. The Soviet Union nearly collapses. But here's what makes this catastrophe an intelligence failure. Stalin had been warned, not once, 10 times, 84 times. April 1941, British intelligence warns Stalin. Germany is massing forces on your border. Stalin dismisses it as British propaganda, trying to provoke Soviet-German conflict. Soviet spy Richard Sorge sends multiple warnings from Tokyo. Attack planned for June 22nd. Stalin calls him a liar. German communist informants warn, Barbarossa is coming. Stalin has them arrested as provocateurs. Soviet border commanders report, German forces concentrating, engineering units building bridges, Luftwaffe reconnaissance flights increasing. Stalin orders them to stop provocative reports. June 21st, the day before the attack, a German deserter crosses the border and reports, attack begins tomorrow dawn. Stalin says, shoot him for disinformation. Why did Stalin ignore 84 warnings? Because he believed Hitler wouldn't attack while still fighting Britain. Because he trusted the Nazi-Soviet pact. Because Soviet intelligence told him what he wanted to hear. Germany isn't ready. On June 22nd at 3:15 a.m., reality struck. Soviet airfields were bombed while aircraft sat parked in neat rows. Soviet armies were encircled while commanders waited for orders. Stalin refused to believe reports for 11 hours. The result, 27 million Soviet citizens dead by war's end. This is the story of how confirmation bias, dictatorial paranoia, and systematic refusal to accept unwelcome intelligence created history's deadliest intelligence failure. By 1941, Europe had been at war for 2 years. Nazi Germany had conquered France, was bombing Britain. Poland was gone. Norway, Denmark, Belgium, Netherlands, Yugoslavia, Greece, all fallen. But in the East, Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union were at peace. August 23, 1939, Hitler and Stalin signed the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, a non-aggression treaty. The pact's secret protocol divided Eastern Europe. Germany would take Western Poland, Soviets would take Eastern Poland. September 1, 1939, Germany invaded Poland from the west. September 17, 1939, Soviets invaded Poland from the east. Poland disappeared. Hitler and Stalin were partners, but Hitler's long-term plan was always clear. Hitler's ideology, Lebensraum, Hitler's Mein Kampf, explicitly stated, Germany needed to expand eastward, conquer Soviet territory, enslave Slavic peoples, Lebensraum, living space. Hitler viewed communism as a mortal enemy. The Nazi-Soviet pact was tactical, not ideological. By 1940, Hitler had conquered Western Europe. Britain hadn't fallen, but couldn't be invaded. RAF won the Battle of Britain. Hitler faced a two-front war. West, Britain, resisting but can't be invaded. East, Soviet Union, neutral for now. Hitler decided, can't invade Britain but can defeat Soviets now, while Western Front quiet. July 1940, Hitler ordered the military to plan Soviet invasion. December 18, 1940, Hitler signed Directive No. 21, Operation Barbarossa, Blitzkrieg against Soviet Union. Goal, capture Moscow, destroy Red Army, collapse Soviet government. Timeline, May 1941, later postponed to June. So did Stalin know? He did. He had intelligence. 84 separate warnings, but he refused to believe them. Throughout 1940-1941, Soviet intelligence closely monitored Germany. Soviet intelligence capabilities, 1 points GRU, Red Army intelligence, Soviet military intelligence, spy networks, monitoring enemy forces, assessing operational planning. GRU operated agents in Europe and Asia, most famous Richard Sorge in Tokyo. 2. NKVD, People's Commissariat for Internal Affairs, Soviet Secret Police, Counterintelligence, Internal Security, Foreign Intelligence. NKVD operated informants in Germany, anti-Nazi communists, German military sources. 3. Border Intelligence, Soviet border troops monitored German military movements, troop concentrations, engineering activities, reconnaissance patrols. 1941. Intelligence flow begins. From autumn 1940, reports started arriving. September 1940, GRU report, German forces increasing in Poland near Soviet border. November 1940, NKVD informant, Wehrmacht preparing plans for East. December 1940, Soviet border unit, German reconnaissance flights increased. Every report said the same thing, Germany preparing Soviet invasion. But Stalin's reaction, British disinformation, they're trying to provoke war between Germany and Soviets. Why was Stalin suspicious? British motivation, Stalin thought Britain wanted to provoke Germany and Soviets against each other so Britain could rest. Two-front war logic. Stalin assumed Hitler wouldn't risk two-front war, wouldn't attack Soviets while still fighting Britain in the West. 3. Nazi-Soviet pact trust. Stalin believed the 1939 pact protected him, but intelligence kept accumulating. By spring 1941, warnings had become a flood. Warning categories. Soviet historians have documented that at least 84 intelligence warnings reached Stalin before June 22nd. Let's break these warnings into categories. Category 1. British intelligence. April 1941. April 3, 1941. British intelligence, MI6 and diplomatic channels reached Soviet Ambassador Ivan Maisky in London. Message: Germany is massing large forces on your border. Invasion planned for mid-May. Source: British ultra code breaking Enigma messages, and German émigré debriefing. British Foreign Secretary Anthony Eden personally warned Soviet Ambassador Maisky. Maisky sent report to Moscow. Stalin's reaction: British provocation. They want us fighting Germany. Stalin was convinced Britain was trying to manipulate Germany and Soviets into conflict. Category 2. Richard Sorge, Tokyo Spy Network. Richard Sorge was one of history's greatest spies, a Soviet GRU agent operating in Tokyo, undercover as German journalist. He had access to German embassy, access to Japanese officials. Spring 1941, Sorge sent multiple warnings to Moscow. March 15, 1941, Sorge sent multiple warnings to Moscow. March 15, Germany planning to attack Soviets in May with 170 to 90 divisions. May 1941, attack date postponed to around mid-June. June 15th, definite date. Sorge's intelligence was incredibly accurate. He got information from sources in German embassy. Stalin's reaction: Sorge is a liar. Little businessman getting cocky. Stalin dismissed Sorge's information as unreliable. Why? Because Sorge's warnings challenged Stalin's assumptions. Category 3. German Communist Informants. NKVD operated a network of agents in Germany, anti-Nazi communists. Spring 1941, multiple informants reported. February 1941, Wehrmacht preparing attack plans for East. March 1941, operation name, Barbarossa. Target, capture Moscow. May 1941, German troops concentrating in Poland. Attack imminent. Some of these informants had sources inside Wehrmacht, officers, logistics personnel. Stalin's reaction: arrests. Stalin feared these informants might be double agents manipulated by German counterintelligence. Some were arrested, some were executed. Their messages were ignored. Category 4. Soviet border commanders. May-June 1941. Soviet border troops sent increasingly alarmed reports. May 1941. German troops concentrating on border. Tanks, artillery, infantry units detected. June 1941. German engineering units building bridges. Logistics convoys moving east. Luftwaffe reconnaissance flights increasing daily. June 18, 1941. Western Special Military District Commander reported German concentration on border increasing every day. Request defensive preparation. Stalin's reaction: stop provocative reports. Stalin ordered border commanders to avoid provoking Germany. Defensive preparations might be seen as aggressive, might convince Hitler to attack. Result: no defensive measures taken. Category 5 German deserters. Night of June 21, 1941, 10 hours before the attack, a German deserter crossed into Soviet positions. Identity: Alfred Liskov, German Wehrmacht soldier, communist sympathizer. Information: attack begins June 22 at 03. My unit is in attack position on border. I deserted to warn you as a fellow communist. Soviet border troops interrogated Liskov. His story was consistent. Details were specific. Unit numbers, attack positions, exact timing. Report sent to Moscow. Stalin's reaction: a German disinformation agent, shoot him. Stalin believed Liskov was German counterintelligence provocation sent to panic Soviet leadership. Liskov wasn't shot. Border commanders hesitated, but his warning was ignored. 10 hours later, the attack began exactly as he described. Total: 84 warnings. Soviet historian Gabriel Gorodetsky and Western researchers have documented at least 84 intelligence warnings. Amateur intelligence, 10 warnings. Richard Sorge, Tokyo, 15 warnings. German communist informants, 20 warnings. Soviet border troop reports, 30 warnings. Various sources, diplomatic, military, 219 warnings. Every warning said the same thing: German attack is coming. But Stalin rejected every single one. 3:15 a.m. Barbarossa begins. June 22, 1941, 3:15 a.m. Moscow time. Along 3,000 kilometers of Soviet-German border, from Baltic Sea to Black Sea, German artillery opened fire. Wehrmacht attack force, -3 million German soldiers plus 600,000 Axis allies, Romania, Finland, Italy, Hungary. First 350 tanks, first 7,700 artillery pieces, first 3070s 170 aircraft, 3 army groups, minus Army Group North, target Leningrad, Army Group Center, target Minsk, then Moscow, Army Group South, target Kiev, Ukraine. Attack plan: Blitzkrieg, rapid armored advance, encircle Soviet armies, rapid collapse. Soviet unpreparedness. The Soviet Red Army was completely unprepared. At airfields, Soviet aircraft were parked in neat rows. For protection from sabotage, they didn't think about attack. Luftwaffe's first wave struck Soviet airfields. First day, 1,200 Soviet aircraft destroyed on the ground. Soviet Air Force neutralized. At border defenses, Soviet border troops weren't in defensive positions. Stalin had forbidden provocation. Ammunition wasn't distributed. Commanders hadn't received full war orders. When German attack began, many Soviet units' commanders were absent weekend leave. At command chaos, no clear orders from Moscow. Stalin refused to believe in first hours. Border commanders improvised defenses without coordination, without air support, without ammunition. First hours, 03:15-14, 03:15-06 there. German artillery bombardment destroyed Soviet positions. Panzer divisions began advancing. 06 there, General Staff learned Germany was attacking, called to wake Stalin. 07, Stalin listened to reports, didn't believe. Maybe a provocation, maybe unauthorized border incident. Hitler didn't approve this. Stalin wanted to believe Hitler hadn't personally approved full-scale attack, maybe rogue generals' unauthorized action. 08, July the. Reports kept coming. German attack everywhere. Baltics, Belarus, Ukraine, front hundreds of kilometers wide. Stalin finally accepted. This is real attack, but 9 hours lost. 14 Soviet counterattack order issued, but too late. German forces already advanced dozens of kilometers deep. First week's disaster. June-July 1941, Soviet Red Army experienced collapse. First week, German Army Group Center captured Minsk 400 kilometers into Soviet territory. 300,000 Soviet soldiers encircled, captured. Soviet Western Front command structure collapsed. Second week, German Army Group North advanced through Baltic states. German Army Group South entered Ukraine. First month, July 1941, 15 million Soviet soldiers dead, wounded or captured. 5% of Red Army's Western units destroyed. Wehrmacht had advanced 450 kilometers deep, halfway to Moscow. Stalin had nervous breakdown in first days. Reportedly, Stalin left Kremlin on June 29th, went to his dacha, thought he might resign. July 3rd, Stalin addressed nation by radio, first time since attack. His voice trembled, called for Soviet defense. War outcome. Operation Barbarossa launched history's deadliest conflict. Eastern Front, 1941. The Soviet Union eventually won, but at enormous cost. Soviet losses, 1941, 27 million Soviet citizens died. 8 to 10 million military, 17-19 million civilians, 4 million Soviet POWs, most died in Nazi captivity. 1,700 cities, 70,000 villages destroyed. Why so deadly? 1. 1941. Unpreparedness. Millions of Soviet soldiers lost in first weeks of attack. 2. Nazi war crimes. Wehrmacht and SS systematically brutalized civilian population, mass executions, starvation, slavery. Sieges. Leningrad siege, 1941 to 1944, and million civilians died from starvation. Why did Stalin ignore 84 warnings? Soviet and Western historians have identified these factors. 1. Confirmation bias. Stalin believed Hitler wouldn't risk two-front war. He accepted intelligence supporting this belief, rejected intelligence contradicting it. Example: some Soviet reports said Germany isn't ready. Stalin emphasized these, ignored 84 reports saying Germany is attacking. 2. However, dictatorial paranoia. Stalin had purged Red Army in 1930's Great Terror, executed thousands of officers, accused them of being traitors. By 1941, Stalin didn't trust intelligence reports. He saw conspiracies, provocations, disinformation, British warnings, provocation, Sorge warnings, double agent, German informants, counterintelligence trick, deserters, disinformation. 3. Fear of Stalin believed 1939 pact protected him. Soviets were fulfilling agreement, sending oil, grain, raw materials to Germany. Stalin thought, why would Hitler attack? Agreement benefits both sides. Reality, Hitler's ideological goal was always conquering Soviet territory. Pact was tactical, to secure East before defeating West. Systematic intelligence rejection. Stalin didn't just ignore warnings, he punished those who brought warnings. Intelligence officers reprimanded for creating panic. Border commanders rebuked for provocative reports. Informants arrested. Result: Soviet intelligence community learned to tell Stalin what he wanted to hear, not the truth. Barbarossa's lasting impact. 1. Soviet intelligence reform. Post-war, Soviets rebuilt intelligence system. Multi-source verification mandatory. Protect analytical independence from political pressure. Renewed emphasis on informant networks. 2. Barbarossa syndrome. Soviet, later Russian military thought developed surprise attack paranoia. During Cold War, Soviets invested heavily in early warning systems to prevent NATO's surprise attack. 3. Dictator intelligence failure model. Barbarossa demonstrated how dictators distort intelligence. Fear of challenging leaders. Confirmation bias. Shoot the messenger. Suppression of alternative views. Modern examples: Saddam Hussein 2003, Iraq, Gaddafi 2011. Both fell due to poor intelligence assessments because aides feared giving leaders bad news. Operation Barbarossa left 3 lasting lessons for modern intelligence community. 1. Confirmation bias kills. Barbarossa failure showed having intelligence isn't enough. You must accept it. Stalin had intelligence. He had 84 warnings, but he ignored them because they challenged his assumptions. Modern reflection. 1973. Yom Kippur War showed similar pattern. Israeli intelligence detected Egyptian and Syrian attack preparations. But the conception doctrine assumed Egypt can't attack without rebuilding air force. Confirmation bias. Israeli analysts interpreted evidence to fit doctrine. Result: October 6, 1973. Egypt and Syria attacked. Israel caught by surprise, echoing Barbarossa. Modern intelligence principle. Every major agency, CIA, MI6, Mossad, now uses red team analysis. Team challenging official assessment. Goal: break confirmation bias. Force alternative scenarios. 2. Source verification isn't sacred. Source number is. At Barbarossa, Stalin had 84 warnings from multiple independent sources. British intelligence, Richard Sorge, Tokyo, German informants, Soviet border troops, deserters. Every source independently confirmed same conclusion: German attack coming. But Stalin dismissed all coordinated British disinformation. Modern standard: critical intelligence must be verified by multiple independent sources. Single source reports marked low confidence. Example: 2003 Iraq WMD curveball single source used despite German BND warnings. Result: failure. Barbarossa lesson: when multiple independent sources confirm conclusion, Dreyer takes seriously. 3. Political pressure threatens analytical integrity. At Barbarossa, Soviet intelligence officers reported accurate intelligence, but Stalin punished them. Result: analysts learned to tell Stalin what he wanted to hear, not truth. Modern safeguards. Agencies now have procedures separating analytical processes from policy decisions, but pressure still exists. Example: 2015 ISIS intelligence. Some CENTCOM analysts claim they felt pressure to downplay ISIS threat when policymakers wanted "we're winning." Pentagon Inspector General investigated. Lesson: political pressure always risk institutional safeguards necessary. On the morning of June 22, 1941, Stalin woke to find his world collapsing. 3 million German soldiers were pouring into Soviet territory. 84 intelligence reports had come to warn him. He'd ignored every single one. Why? Because accepting the truth was too uncomfortable. Because it challenged his assumptions. Because he didn't trust his intelligence officers. Because he saw British disinformation, not Nazi invasion. In the first weeks, 2 million Soviet soldiers were lost. By war's end, 27 million Soviet citizens would be dead. Barbarossa left permanent lessons in intelligence history. Confirmation bias kills. When multiple sources confirm a conclusion, listen. Don't choose the comfort of your assumptions. Political pressure destroys analytical integrity. Intelligence should report what it sees, not what leaders want to hear. Dictators are the worst intelligence consumers because everyone's afraid to give them bad news. Today, every intelligence service asks, is this our Barbarossa? Are we seeing what we want to see or what's actually there? Because history taught us, having accurate intelligence isn't enough. You must accept it. And sometimes the truth, uncomfortable, unexpected, challenging your assumptions, is the difference between life and death. If seeing Stalin ignore 84 warnings and 27 million Soviet citizens die amazes you, subscribe, because wars aren't just lost on battlefields, sometimes they're lost in intelligence rooms when leaders refuse to hear the truth. Tell us in the comments, have modern intelligence services learned the Barbarossa lesson, or is confirmation bias still a threat?